The door of the rusty anchor groaned as Elena stumbled inside, her torn wedding dress dragging behind her like a ghost's shroud. Rain dripped from her tangled hair onto the sticky floor. The smell of stale beer and smoke burned her throat. Every eye in the bar turned toward her. She didn't care. Her bare feet left wet prints on the wood as she made her way to the counter and collapsed onto a cracked leather stool. "Whiskey," she whispered, her voice raw. The bartender, a scarred man with dead eyes, poured without a word. His gaze lingered on the mud-streaked lace. The torn veil still caught in her hair. Elena drained half the glass in one burning gulp. The liquor scorched her throat, but couldn't touch the ice in her chest. Behind her closed eyes, she saw it all again. Damon's voice in the hallway, cold and surgical. "Once I gain control, I'll get rid of them. A car accident, depending on the situation. Her parents. He was going to kill her parents. Rough night?" The voice came from beside her, low and rough like gravel under tires. Elena turned her head slowly. The man on the next stool looked like he'd been carved from shadows. Dark hair fell across sharp cheekbones, and his gray eyes studied her with an intensity that should have made her uncomfortable. Instead, something about his presence felt solid in a world that had just shattered. He wore a faded black jacket over a t-shirt that had seen better days. His hands, wrapped around a beer bottle, were scarred across the knuckles. "You could say that," Elena replied, her voice bitter. "Runaway bride?" His mouth quirked, but there was no mockery in it. Just understanding. Something like that. Took a slow drink, never breaking eye contact. "I'm Kade." "Elena." "Well, Elena." Kade set down his beer. "You planning on going back?" The question hit her like a fist. She thought of the mansion, the guests, Damon's twisted face as she'd fled. She thought of her parents, oblivious to the knife poised at their throats. "I can't." The words broke from her. "But I can't explain why. No one would believe me." Kade leaned closer. The scent of rain and leather cut through the bar's stench. "Try me." Something in his voice, in those storm-gray eyes, made her want to trust him. A stranger in a dive bar who looked as broken as she felt. "My fiancé," she began, her hands shaking around the glass. "I heard him on the phone. He's going to kill my parents. Take over the company. He's been planning it all along." She waited for doubt, for dismissal. Instead, Kade's jaw tightened. "And no one will believe you," he said. "Not a question. They think he's perfect. They need him. The company is failing, and he's the solution." Elena's laugh was sharp and painful. "I'm just the hysterical bride with cold feet." Kade studied her for a long moment. Then he stood, pulling cash from his pocket and dropping it on the bar. "Come with me." Elena stared up at him. "What? You need somewhere safe." "Somewhere he won't find you tonight." Kade held out his hand. "I have a place. Not much, but it's off the grid." Every instinct screamed that this was insane. She didn't know this man. He could be anyone, anything. But Damon's voice echoed in her mind. The wedding bells. The trap closing. Elena took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and rough and steady. He pulled her to her feet, his other hand catching her elbow when she swayed. "We need to move fast," Kade said, his voice urgent now. "If your fiancé is who I think he might be, he'll have people searching." They headed for the door, but Elena froze as it burst open. Two men in dark suits stepped inside, water streaming from their shoulders. One of them held up a phone with her photo on the screen. "Anyone seen this woman?" Kade's hand tightened on hers. Without a word, he pulled her toward the back of the bar, past the pool table where the players watched with wary eyes. One of the suits shouted. They ran. Kade shoved through a side door into an alley. Rain lashed down, turning the narrow passage into a river. Elena's dress caught on a dumpster, tearing further, but Kade didn't slow. Behind them, footsteps pounded. "This way." Kade yanked her left into a maze of service alleys between buildings. The city's underbelly stretched before them, dark and labyrinthian. Elena's lungs burned. Her bare feet slipped on wet pavement. But Kade's grip never faltered, pulling her forward deeper into the shadows. They burst onto a side street, A old motorcycle sat chained to a post, black and battle-scarred. Kade produced keys, his movements swift and practiced. "Get on." "I can't ride in this dress." "Then tear it." Elena grabbed the ruined fabric and ripped, splitting the skirt up to her thigh. She climbed on behind him as the engine roared to life. Headlights swept around the corner behind them. "Hold on," Kade growled. Elena wrapped her arms around his waist as the bike shot forward, rain stinging her face like needles. The city blurred around them, lights streaking past in the darkness. She pressed her face against his back, feeling the solid heat of him through the leather. And for the first time since the world ended, she felt something other than terror. She felt alive. The bike screamed through the night, carrying her away from everything she knew, and toward a man whose eyes held secrets as dark as her own. The motorcycle shuddered to a stop in front of a warehouse. It looked abandoned. Rusted metal walls, broken windows covered with boards, graffiti screaming in neon colors across every surface. The rain had softened to a drizzle, but Elena's body shook with cold that went bone deep. Kade killed the engine. Silence rushed in, broken only by water dripping from gutters. "This is your place?" Elena's voice trembled. "Not what you're used to, I'm sure." Kade swung off the bike, then offered his hand. "But it's safe. No one knows about it." She took his hand and slid off, her torn dress clinging to her legs. Her feet were scraped and bleeding, leaving faint prints on the wet concrete. Kade noticed. Without a word, he shrugged off his leather jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. The warmth shocked her system, and she pulled it tighter, breathing in the scent of rain and something darker, more masculine. "Come on." He led her to a side door, unlocking 3 separate deadbolts. "Watch your step. The floor is uneven." Inside, the warehouse opened into a surprisingly clean space. A mattress in one corner, covered with dark blankets. A small kitchen setup with a hot plate and coffee maker. Books stacked against the walls, hundreds of them. And in the center, a desk covered with papers, multiple laptops, equipment she didn't recognize. Elena stared. "This doesn't look like a homeless person's squat. Never said I was homeless." Kade locked the door behind them. "Just said I wasn't much." He moved to a space heater, flicking it on. Orange light bloomed across the concrete floor. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the mattress. "I'll get something for those feet." Elena lowered herself onto the surprisingly soft bed, too exhausted to argue. She watched him dig through a footlocker, pulling out first aid supplies with practiced efficiency. When he knelt before her, his hands gentle on her ankle, she flinched. "I'm not going to hurt you," Kade said quietly. "That's what they all say." His gray eyes met hers. "Fair enough." He cleaned the cuts in silence, his touch careful. Elena studied him in the heater's glow. The sharp line of his jaw, the scar that cut through his left eyebrow, the way his shoulders carried tension like armor. "Why are you helping me?" she asked finally. Kade's hands stilled. "Let's just say I know what it's like to run from a monster in a suit. That's not an answer. It's the one you're getting tonight." He wrapped gauze around her foot, securing it with tape. "Your turn. Who's the fiancé?" "Damon Grayson. He owns half the commercial real estate in the Midwest." Kade's hands froze. When he looked up, something sharp and dangerous had entered his expression. "Damon Grayson," he repeated slowly. "You know him?" "I know of him." Kade stood abruptly, moving to his desk. His fingers flew across a laptop keyboard. 3 years ago, a warehouse fire. 16 workers killed. The investigation was shut down before it really started. Elena's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Damon Grayson has been burying bodies for a long time." Kade turned the laptop toward her. The screen showed news articles, police reports, records that looked confidential. "You're not paranoid, Elena. You're right." The room tilted. Elena gripped the edge of the mattress. "How do you have all this?" Kade's smile was cold. "I'm good at finding things people want to stay hidden." "Who are you?" "Someone who's been waiting a long time to take down men like Damon Grayson." He closed the laptop. "The question is, are you willing to help me do it?" Elena's mind raced. This stranger, this man with his warehouse full of secrets and surveillance equipment, was offering her what felt like revenge. but nothing came free. "What do you get out of this?" she asked. "The kind the courts won't give." "That's not an answer either." Kade moved closer, crouching before her again. This time, his eyes held something raw and wounded. 5 years ago, Damon Grayson destroyed my family's business. My father hung himself in our garage 3 months later. My mother drank herself to death a year after that. His voice was steady, but his hands clenched into fists. I've spent every day since then building a case against him. But I need proof. Real proof. The kind only someone on the inside could get. Elena's throat tightened. "You want to use me? Want to save your parents and burn Damon's empire to ash?" Kade held her gaze. "If that means using you, then yes. But I'll be honest about it, which is more than anyone in your world would do." The truth of it stung. Her father had used her to secure the business. Her mother had used her to maintain appearances. Damon had planned to use her family's trust to commit murder. At least Kade was honest about his intentions. "I need to warn my parents," Elena said. "Even if they don't believe me, I have to try. If you contact them, Damon will trace it. He'll find you." Kade stood, pulling out his phone. "But I can send an anonymous tip. Something to make them cautious without revealing where you are. And then we gather evidence. We expose everything Damon's done, and we make sure he can't hurt anyone ever again." Elena looked around the warehouse at this strange man who'd become her unlikely ally. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Somewhere, Damon was searching for her, planning his next move. She thought of her parents, oblivious and trusting. She thought of the 16 workers burned alive. She thought of Kade's parents, destroyed by a man who collected power like trophies. "Okay," she said. "I'll help you." Something flickered in Kade's expression. Relief? Satisfaction? It vanished before she could name it. "Good." He moved to the kitchen area, filling a kettle. "You should rest. Tomorrow, things get complicated. More complicated than this." His laugh was dark. "You have no idea." As he made tea, Elena pulled his jacket tighter and watched him move through the shadows. She'd traded one dangerous man for another. The difference was, this one didn't pretend to be anything but dangerous. And somehow, that felt safer. Kade brought her a chipped mug filled with steaming liquid. Their fingers brushed as she took it, and electricity sparked between them. "Thank you," Elena whispered. "Don't thank me yet." Kade's eyes held hers. "Before this is over, you might hate me." "Why?" "Because I'm going to ask you to do things that will break you." His voice dropped. "And I'm going to do them anyway." The words should have terrified her. Instead, Elena felt something shift inside her chest. A recognition. This man understood darkness because he lived in it, just like she would have to. "Then we're even," she said. "Because I'm going to ask you to help me save people who would never give you a second glance." Kade's smile was sharp and real. "Deal." They drank in silence, the heater humming between them, while the rain began again outside. Elena set down her empty mug. "Kade, what you said about Damon destroying your family? Was it just business?" His jaw tightened. "He wanted our land. We wouldn't sell. So he manufactured a scandal, destroyed our credit, turned everyone against us." "Oh, did?" Kade stared into his mug. "By the time it was over, we had nothing. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Help me end him," Elena nodded. Then exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. Her eyes drifted closed. "Sleep," Kade said softly. "I'll keep watch." "You don't have to?" "Yes, I do." As she lay back on the mattress, Elena felt Kade drape another blanket over her. His hand lingered for a moment on her shoulder, warm and steady. "Elena?" His voice came from the darkness. "For what it's worth, you made the right choice. Running." "How do you know?" "Because you're still alive." The words followed her down into sleep, where she dreamed of burning buildings and wedding bells that sounded like funeral tolls. When she woke hours later, the warehouse was dark except for the glow of laptop screens. Kade sat at his desk, his face illuminated by cold blue light. Surrounded by shadows, he looked up, meeting her eyes across the room, and Elena realized with a jolt that felt like falling. She wasn't just afraid of him, she was drawn to him, to the darkness in him that matched the darkness Damon had forced her to see. God help her. But she wanted to fall. Morning light filtered through the boarded windows in thin gray lines. Elena woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Kade's voice, low and tense. "No, I don't care what it costs. I need that information by tonight." She sat up slowly, every muscle aching. Kade stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, his back rigid. Just get it done. He ended the call and turned, catching her awake. "Coffee. Please." He poured from a battered pot, handing her a mug that was surprisingly good. Elena wrapped her hands around it, studying him in the daylight. The shadows under his eyes spoke of a sleepless night. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked. Someone had to watch. Kade leaned against the desk. "Your parents are safe. I sent the tip through an encrypted channel. Made it look like it came from inside Damon's organization." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you. You don't thank me yet. Damon's people are searching the entire south side. They found your car." Elena's stomach dropped. "What, stripped and torched by morning professionals?" Kade's expression was grim. "He's trying to erase evidence of your escape. Make it look like something else." "Like what?" "Like you never left willingly. Like something happened to you." He moved closer, crouching before her. "Elena, this is bigger than we thought. I made some calls last night. Damon's connected to some very dangerous people." "How dangerous?" "The kind who make people disappear." Kade's gray eyes held hers. "If we're going to do this, we need to move fast. And we need to be smart." Elena set down her coffee, her hand shaking. "What's the plan?" "We need access to Damon's private files. Financial records, communications, everything he's buried." Kade pulled out his phone, showing her blueprints of a building. "This is his office. Top floor, corner suite. Security is tight, but there's a window. You want me to break in?" "I want us to break in. Together." He swiped through more images. "Tonight, he's attending a charity gala downtown. The one your parents are hosting. Actually," Elena's breath caught. "They're still going through with it?" "Apparently, which means Damon will be occupied for at least 3 hours. That's our window." "You're insane, probably." Kade's smile was sharp. "But it's our best shot. And Elena, there's something else." The way he said it made her stomach tighten. "What?" "I've been tracking Damon's movements for years. Last night, after you disappeared, he made a call." Kade's voice dropped. "To someone I've been looking for a long time. Someone who connects Damon to crimes that go way beyond corporate fraud." "Who?" "A man named Marcus Voss. He runs the largest money laundering operation in the Midwest. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking. Damon's been his partner for at least 5 years." The room spun. Elena gripped the edge of the mattress. "My parents. Do they know?" "I don't think so. But if we expose Damon, we expose Voss. And Voss doesn't leave witnesses, then we're already dead. Not if we're smart." Kade moved to his desk, pulling out a burner phone. "I have contacts. People who can help us disappear if things go wrong. But I need you to trust me." Elena laughed, the sound bitter. "Trust? That's rich. I don't even know your real name." Kade froze. Then, slowly, he turned back to her. "You don't." He crossed the space between them, kneeling so their eyes were level. "My name is Kade Rivers. 5 years ago, I was a prosecutor. Federal level. I was building a case against several major crime figures in Chicago." Elena's breath stopped. "I got too close. They came after my family. Destroyed everything. I couldn't prove who ordered it, but I knew." His voice was raw. "So I faked my death. Went underground. Became someone else. And I've been hunting them ever since." "You're telling me you're not broke? You're not some vigilante with a grudge?" "I'm exactly a vigilante with a grudge. But you're right about the broke part." Kade's smile was cold. "I have resources, money, connections, everything I need to take down the people who killed my family." Elena stood abruptly, backing away. "You lied to me," I simplified. "You lied." Her voice cracked. "I trusted you. I came here because I thought you were like me. Alone, desperate. I am like you. Kade stood, his eyes blazing. Everything I said about my parents was true. The pain is real. The need for justice is real. I just have better tools than you thought. Who else knows you're alive? No one. As far as the world knows, Kade Rivers died in a car accident 5 years ago. He moved toward her, but she held up a hand. Stay back, Elena. Listen to me. I didn't tell you because I needed to see if you were real. If your fear was genuine, or if you were part of Damon's game. And now I know you're not. His voice softened. You're a survivor, like me, and we can help each other. But only if you trust me. Trust the word tasted like ashes. Elena thought of her parents, who trusted Damon. She thought of herself, who trusted that her family would keep her safe. How do I know you're not using me to get to Damon? That this isn't just revenge? Because I'm telling you the truth now. Kade held out his phone. Here, every file I have, every plan, every contact. You want to know who I am? It's all there. Elena stared at the offered phone. One click, and she'd see everything. His real life. His real motives. She didn't take it. If I look at that, I'm all in, she said. There's no going back. There's already no going back. Not for either of us. The truth of it settled over her like a shroud. She'd run from her wedding. Damon was hunting her. Her parents were in danger. And this man, this dead prosecutor with secrets in his eyes, was her only ally. Elena took the phone. For the next hour, she read financial records showing accounts in the Cayman Islands, surveillance photos of Damon meeting with men whose faces made her skin crawl, audio recordings of conversations about shipments, payments, eliminations, and buried in the files. Evidence of 16 deaths in a warehouse fire that wasn't an accident. Deaths Damon had ordered to cover up a failed deal. Elena set down the phone, her hand shaking. He's a monster. Yes. And you've been planning this for years? Yes. Then why do you need me? Kade's expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through. Because I can't get inside his world. I'm dead, remember? Not you. You're his runaway bride, the victim. If you go back, if you pretend you panicked but you're sorry, he'll take you back. He needs your family's legitimacy. Elena's blood turned to ice. You want me to go back to him? It's just long enough to plant devices? To get evidence we can use in court? Real, undeniable proof. He'll kill me. It's not if you're careful. Not if I'm watching every second. Kade grabbed her shoulders. Elena, I know what I'm asking. I know it's impossible. But it's the only way to save your parents and stop him. If you're asking me to sacrifice myself, I'm asking you to be brave for a few hours. And then, I'm getting you out, and we're burning his empire to the ground. Elena's mind raced. Every instinct screamed to refuse. But behind Kade's eyes, she saw the same desperation she felt. The same need for justice that had become a hunger. If I do this, she whispered, and something goes wrong, if he finds out, then I'll come for you. No matter what it costs, promise me. Kade pulled her closer, his hands warm on her arms. I promise you, Elena Mero, I will not let him hurt you. You can't know that. I know that I'll die trying to stop it. The words hung between them, charged with something more than just strategy. Elena felt the heat of his body, smelled leather and coffee and something darker. Dangerous. Why? She breathed. Why do you care what happens to me? Kade's jaw tightened. His eyes dropped to her mouth, then back up. Because you remind me that there are still people worth saving, he said roughly. Because when you walked into that bar, you looked like I felt. Broken, but still fighting. And I'm tired of being alone in the dark. Elena's breath caught. She should pull away. Should keep this professional. Instead, she leaned closer. Kade, don't. His voice was strained. Don't make this more complicated than it is. It's already complicated. Then let's keep it simple. Business, strategy, revenge. But his hands hadn't left her arms. And his eyes held hers with an intensity that burned. What if I don't want simple? Elena whispered. Kade's control broke. He pulled her against him, his mouth finding hers in a kiss that tasted like desperation and fury and something too raw to name. Elena melted into it, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Kade pressed his forehead to hers. "This is a terrible idea," he said. "The worst. It'll get us both killed, probably." His laugh was dark and real. "Then let's make it count." Elena pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "Tonight, I'll do it. I'll go back to Damon, Elena. But afterward, when this is over, you don't get to disappear. You don't get to be dead again." Kade's expression shifted, something like pain crossing his features. "I can't promise that. Then I can't promise I'll be careful." They stared at each other, two people balanced on the edge of disaster, neither willing to step back. Finally, Kade nodded. "Deal, we both survive this, or neither of us does. Partners." Partners. Kissed her again, softer this time. And Elena let herself believe that they might actually survive what was coming. Outside, sirens wailed, and in a penthouse across the city, Damon Grayson stared at a photo of his missing. Bryden smiled coldly. He'd always been a patient hunter. The charity gala blazed with light, crystal chandeliers casting diamonds across the crowd of Chicago's elite. Elena stood at the entrance in a borrowed black dress, her hair swept up, the bruises on her feet hidden by expensive heels that Kade had somehow procured. "You look perfect." Kade's voice came through the tiny earpiece hidden in her ear. He was blocks away, monitoring from his van. "Remember, you're shaken but apologetic." "You panicked." Cold feet. Nothing more. Elena's hands trembled as she stepped into the ballroom. Faces turned toward her. Whispers rippled through the crowd like poison. Then she saw him. Damon stood by the bar, immaculate in his tuxedo, a glass of champagne in his hand. When their eyes met, his expression shifted from shock to something calculating. He set down his glass and walked toward her. "Elena." His voice was silk over steel. "Everyone's been worried sick. I'm sorry." The words felt like glass in her throat. "I got scared. I ran. It was stupid. Stupid." Damon's smile didn't reach his eyes. He took her arm, his grip just tight enough to hurt. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. You disappeared without a word." "I know. I'm so sorry, Damon. You're shaking." He leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. "Are you afraid of me, Elena?" "I'm afraid of myself. Of messing this up again." His eyes searched hers. Then, slowly, he released her arm. "Your parents are here," he said. "They'll want to see you. Stay calm." Kade's voice whispered in her ear. "You're doing great. Just get to his office. Second floor, East Wing." Elena let Damon guide her through the crowd. Her parents materialized from the throng, her mother's face streaked with tears. "Elena." "Thank God." Evelyn embraced her. "We were terrified." "I'm fine, Mom. I just needed time." Her father's expression was harder. "Time? You disappeared on your wedding day. Do you have any idea what that did to the family's reputation?" "Charles, not now." Evelyn shot him a look. Damon stepped between them smoothly. "Let's not make a scene. Elena's back. That's what matters." He turned to Elena, his smile perfect. "Perhaps we should talk privately." "My office is quiet." Elena's heart hammered. "Okay, perfect." Kade's voice was tight. "I'll guide you. Camera in your purse. Just activate it when you're inside." Damon led her away from the party, down a marble corridor that grew quieter with each step. They took an elevator to the second floor. When the doors opened, he gestured for her to exit first. "Such a gentleman," Elena said, trying to keep her voice light. "Always." Damon's hand settled on the small of her back. "You know, Elena, I was very disappointed when you ran." "I'm sorry. Are you?" They reached his office door. He produced a key card, swiping it. "Or are you sorry you got caught?" The door swung open. Elena stepped inside, her pulse racing. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A desk that could double as a dining table. And on the walls, photos of Damon with powerful people, senators, CEOs, men whose faces she recognized from Kade's files. "Nice office," she managed. "I'm glad you think so." Damon closed the door behind them. The lock clicked. Elena's blood turned cold. You're going to want to see this, though. Damon walked to his desk, pressing a button. A section of the wall slid back, revealing monitors. On the screens, security footage played. The rusty anchor bar. Her arrival. Kade's face in perfect clarity. Recognize him? Damon asked casually. Elena couldn't breathe. I don't know what you mean. Kade Rivers. Dead prosecutor. Or supposedly dead. Damon leaned against his desk. Imagine my surprise when my missing bride turned up on security footage with a ghost. Elena, get out. Kade's voice was urgent in her ear. Now, I met him at a bar, Elena said quickly. He offered me a ride. I didn't know who he was. Really? Because my sources tell me you spent the night with him. Damon's expression hardened. In his warehouse hideout, where he keeps files about me. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Damon's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused? How many questions I've had to answer? Let go of me. Not until you tell me what Rivers knows. What evidence he has, Elena. I'm coming. Kade's voice crackled. Hold on. But Damon's other hand shot to her ear, ripping out the earpiece. He crushed it under his heel. Clever, he said. But not clever enough. Lena tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. Can't do this. People know I'm here. Yes, they do. And in about 30 minutes, they'll witness our tearful reconciliation. You panicked. I forgave you. We're getting married next month. His smile was cruel. But first, you're going to tell me everything. I don't know anything. Then you're useless to me. Damon pulled out his phone with his free hand, dialing. Marcus, I have a problem that needs handling. Panic clawed at Elena's throat. Wait, okay. I'll tell you. Too late. Damon's eyes were cold. You should have stayed at the altar, Elena. Now you're a loose end. The office door burst open. Kade stood in the doorway. A gun in his hand, his face a mask of fury. Let her go. Grayson. Damon smiled. The dead walk. How biblical. He pulled Elena against him, his hand at her throat. Drop the gun, Rivers, or I snap her neck right here. Don't do it, Kade. Elena gasped. But Kade was already lowering the weapon. Fine, you win. Just let her go. Let her go. Damon laughed. She's the key to everything. Her family's company, their connections, their legitimacy. Why would I let that go? Because I can offer you something better, Kade said. Me, you. Damon's grip loosened slightly. What could you possibly offer? Evidence that Marcus Voss has been skimming from your operations. Proof that he's planning to eliminate you and take over your territory. Kade's voice was steady. I've been tracking him for years. I have everything. Damon's eyes narrowed. You're lying, am I? Check your accounts. The offshore ones. You'll find discrepancies. Funds disappearing. Voss has been bleeding you dry. For a moment, doubt flickered across Damon's face. His hand loosened on Elena's throat. She didn't hesitate. Elena drove her elbow back into Damon's ribs and stomped on his instep with her heel. He grunted, releasing her. She ran. Kade caught her, pushing her behind him. But Damon was already recovering, pulling a gun from his desk drawer. You think you're smart? Damon aimed the weapon at Kade. You think you can play me? No. Kade's voice was calm. I think I already have. The office door flew open again. This time it was federal agents, vests, reading FBI, guns drawn. Damon Grayson, you're under arrest, the lead agent announced. Damon's face went white. This is a setup. A very thorough one, Kade said. Every word you just said was recorded. Every threat documented. And yes, Marcus Voss was skimming from you. And yes, he's been arrested too. You son of a bitch. I prefer the term prosecutor. Kade smiled coldly. Some of us don't stay dead. As agents surrounded Damon, cuffing him, Elena sagged against the wall. Her mind reeled. The FBI. Federal charges. This wasn't just about saving her parents. This was bigger. Much bigger, Kade. She grabbed his arm. What's happening? Justice, he said. Finally, But something in his eyes wasn't relief. It was something darker, colder. You knew, Elena whispered. This whole time, you knew I'd have to go back to him. I told you I would ask you to do things that would break you. You used me as bait. I used you as the only tool I had to get close enough to record a confession. Kade's jaw tightened, and it worked. Elena stepped back, her chest tight. Everything you said about partners, about surviving together, that was all manipulation. No. Kade reached for her, but she flinched away. Elena, I meant every word. But I also had a job to do. I've been working with the FBI for 3 years to build this case. You were the break I needed. And if you'd killed me, if your plan had gone wrong, it wouldn't have. I had agents positioned everywhere. That's not the point. Elena's voice broke. You made me trust you. Made me believe we were in this together. But I was just another piece on your board. That's not true. Then why didn't you tell me about the FBI? Why didn't you tell me this was an official operation? Kade's expression shuddered. Because I needed your fear to be real? If you'd known it was a sting, Damon would have seen it. The words hit her like a physical blow. Elena looked at this man she'd kissed, this man she'd started to believe might understand her darkness, and realized she'd been played just as surely as Damon had. Get away from me, she said. Elena. I said get away. She pushed past him, past the agents, running for the exit. Behind her, Kade called her name, but she didn't stop. She ran down the corridor, down the stairs, bursting back into the gala. Her parents spotted her, started toward her, but she kept running. Out into the night, into the rain that had started again. She didn't know where she was going, only that she needed to be anywhere Kade Rivers was. The man who'd saved her, used her, broken her, the man who'd made her believe, for one stupid moment, that she wasn't alone. 3 months later, Elena stood on the balcony of her apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. Winter had arrived, turning the water gray and angry. Snow dusted the railing where her coffee sat cooling, forgotten. Her parents' company had survived. Damon's arrest had actually strengthened their position once the FBI cleared them of any knowledge of his crimes. They'd wanted her to move back home, to heal surrounded by family. She'd chosen a studio apartment in a neighborhood. They'd never visit instead. The knock on her door made her stomach tighten. She already knew who it was. Had known he'd come eventually. Elena opened the door. Kade stood in the hallway, looking thinner than she remembered. His gray eyes held shadows that hadn't been there before. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know. He didn't move. Can I come in? She should say no. Should slam the door in his face. Instead, she stepped back. Kade entered slowly like he was approaching something dangerous. He stopped in the center of her small living room. Taking in the sparse furniture, the books stacked on the floor, the half-packed boxes. You're leaving, he said. There's nothing for me here. Your family will be fine without me. Elena crossed her arms. Why are you here, Kade? To explain. I don't want your explanations. Then to apologize. His voice roughened. For using you. For not telling you the whole truth. For making you believe it was something it wasn't? Which part? Elena's laugh was bitter. The part where you pretended to be a broke vigilante? Or the part where you kissed me knowing I was just a means to an end? That's not fair. Fair. Her voice rose. You put me in a room with a murderer. You let me think I was alone. You made me trust you, and it was all a lie. Not all of it. Kade stepped closer. The warehouse. The files. My family. That was all real. The only thing I didn't tell you was that I'd been working with the FBI for 3 years to build the case. It's not a small detail. I know. His control cracked. Don't you think I know that? Every day since you ran, I've replayed it. Wondering if there was another way? If I could have told you without compromising the operation? And I can't find one. Which makes me exactly the kind of person you accused me of being. Kade's hands clenched. Someone who uses people. Who sacrifices them for the greater good. Elena stared at him, this man who'd pulled her from the edge only to push her back toward it. She wanted to hate him. God, she wanted to hate him. Damon goes to trial next month, Kade said quietly. The prosecution wants you to testify. No, Elena said no. I'm done being used. It's not about using you. It's about justice. For the 16 people who died, for my parents, for yours, who he planned to kill. Then you testify. You have all the evidence you need. We need you. Kade's voice dropped. Your testimony about what you overheard, about his plans, it would seal the case. Lena turned away, looking out at the frozen lake. And if I say no, if I walk away, then he might get a lighter sentence. Might even walk on some charges. Kade moved to stand beside her, not touching, but close enough that she felt his presence like heat. But I'd understand. After what I did to you, I'd understand if you never wanted to see me again. They stood in silence, watching snow fall past the window. Did you mean it? Elena asked finally. What you said in the warehouse. About me reminding you that there are people worth saving. Was any of it real? The kiss? The promise to keep me safe? Kade turned to face her fully. All of it. Every word. Every touch. His voice was raw. That was the problem, Elena. I wasn't supposed to care about you. You were supposed to be a tool. A witness. But somewhere between the bar and the warehouse, and watching you walk back into that monster's arms, you became more? More? Elena repeated bitterly. Someone I couldn't lose? Kade's hand lifted, hovering near her face, not quite touching. When Damon grabbed you, when I saw that gun, all I could think was that I'd sent you in there. That if you died, it would be my fault. But I didn't die. No, you survived. Like you always do. His hand dropped, and then you ran from me. Which honestly was the smartest thing you could have done. Elena's throat tightened. She wanted to tell him to leave, to never come back, but the words wouldn't come. The FBI wanted to debrief you, Kade continued. I told them to leave you alone, that you'd been through enough. They weren't happy, but they respected it. Why would you do that? Because I owed you at least that much. The choice to walk away, and the testimony, is that a choice too? Yes. Kade met her eyes. If you testify, it helps. If you don't, we'll work with what we have. Either way, I'm not going to force you into another situation where you feel used. Lena studied him. The shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the guilt written across every line of his face. You haven't slept, she observed. Not much. Guilty conscience. Something like that. His smile was tired. Turns out, destroying the woman who trusted you has consequences. Didn't trust you. Not really. Elena turned back to the window. I wanted to. But I've learned that trust is just another word for vulnerability. And vulnerable people get hurt. Kade's voice was soft. They do. More silence. Then where will you go? After you leave Chicago? I don't know. Maybe the coast. Somewhere I can disappear. Disappearing isn't all it's cracked up to be. You would know. Lena glanced at him. What happens to you after the trial? I go back to being dead. New identity. New life. The FBI's already got it arranged, so this is goodbye, if you want it to be. Lena closed her eyes. She thought of the past 3 months. The nightmares. The therapy sessions her parents insisted on. The way she flinched at loud noises and couldn't stand to be touched. She thought of Kade's hands. Careful on her injured feet. His voice in her ear, guiding her through danger. The kiss that had tasted like desperation and truth. I'll testify, she said. Kade's breath caught. Elena, you don't have to. Oh. But you're right. Those people deserve justice. And Damon deserves to rot in prison for the rest of his life. She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. But I have conditions. Name them. You sit with me during the testimony. Not as the prosecutor. As someone who understands what it's like to face your nightmares. Okay, and after it's over, after you disappear and become someone new, you send me a postcard. Just once. So I know you're okay. Kade's jaw tightened. Elena, those are my conditions. Take them or leave them. He stared at her for a long moment, Then, slowly, he nodded. Deal? Good. Elena moved toward the door. Now get out. I need to pack. Kade walked to the threshold, then paused. For what it's worth, you would have made a terrible prosecutor. You're too honest, too good, and you're too willing to sacrifice the people you care about for a win. Yeah. His smile was sad. That's why I'm glad I'm dead. He left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Elena stood alone in her apartment, surrounded by boxes and silence. She touched her lips, remembering a kiss in a warehouse. A moment when she'd believed that someone might understand the darkness inside her. She'd been right about that, at least. Kade understood darkness. He lived in it. Maybe that was the problem. Or maybe that was the only thing that had ever been real between them. 6 weeks later, Elena sat in a federal courthouse, her hand shaking as she swore to tell the truth. Across the courtroom, Damon stared at her with cold, dead eyes. But beside her, just out of view of the jury, Kade sat in the witness gallery. When she faltered, when the memories threatened to choke her, she'd glance over and find him watching, present, solid. It was enough. She told them everything. Damon's phone call, his plans, the escape. By the time she finished, several jurors were crying. Damon was convicted on all counts. 40 years to life? When the verdict was read, Elena felt something inside her chest crack and begin to heal. She walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine. Her parents waited on the steps, relief written across their faces. They'd apologized over and over for not believing her. For pushing her toward a monster, she was learning to forgive them. Kade stood apart from the crowd, hands in his pockets. When their eyes met, he nodded once. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of reporters and spectators. Elena watched him go, knowing it was the last time she'd see him. 3 months later, a postcard arrived. No return address. Just a picture of a beach at sunset and 4 words in familiar handwriting, still breathing. Still fighting? Elena pinned it to the wall of her new apartment in Portland and smiled. They'd both survived. Broken, scarred, but alive. And sometimes that was enough. She'd learned that love wasn't always gentle, that justice wasn't always clean, that the people who saved you could also hurt you. But she'd also learned that she was stronger than any wedding dress or family. Expectation or monster in a suit could break. Elena Mero had run from her wedding and found her spine. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered. Years later, on another rainy night, Elena sat in a cafe in Seattle. She'd built a new life. Started a nonprofit helping women escape dangerous situations. Found peace in the work. The bell above the door chimed. She looked up out of habit and froze. Kade stood in the doorway, older, different haircut, but the same gray eyes that had seen her at her worst and stayed anyway. He crossed the cafe slowly and stopped at her table. I got your postcard, he said. Elena's heart hammered. I didn't send one. I just wanted to see if you'd let me sit down. She should say no. Should protect the peace she'd built. But some wounds never fully healed. Some connections cut too deep to sever. One coffee, she said. Then you leave. Kade smiled, real and raw and alive. Deal. He sat. They ordered coffee. And as rain streaked the windows and the city moved around them, 2 broken people who'd found each other in the darkness learned that sometimes survival wasn't the end of the story. Sometimes it was just the beginning. And maybe, just maybe, some things were worth the risk of being hurt again. The end.